This is the Business Storytelling Show with Christoph Trapp. Name a top 20 storytelling podcast and a top 5% podcast globally. Christoph chats with thought leaders and experts to share tips and tricks that can help you tell your company's stories better to drive business results. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, live streamed on major social media channels, and part of the DB&A television network, available on most U.S. television sets and streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire. Here's Christoph with today's episode. Let's go.
Let's go, business storytellers. Hey, how's everyone doing? We want to talk about stories in the sales process. And I'm going to say this before I bring my guest on the show. Sending me an email, asking me how I'm doing is not storytelling, because you don't want the answer to that question. It's not going well. I have to let my hair grow out because I can't shave. See? You don't want to hear that. What can you offer me that has anything to do with that? Nothing, right? I already talked to my doctor. But anyway, I'm going to get off this soapbox. What is storytelling in the sales process? I know we can tell good stories. I tell stories all the time, nonstop. That's what I do. So I asked Dan Jourdan to come on the show. He has a fantastic Amazon show, The Pitchman. I say Amazon, but I think it's available everywhere. I need to mute this. Of course, we have Amazon Prime coming by. Wouldn't be a day without a package from Amazon. So The Pitchman, he knows how to tell stories. He knows how to be engaging. I hope he's not going to, blow up the show with his show. You got to check it out, guys. It's fantastic. Dan Jourdan, welcome to the show. There you go.
Yes, sir, Ray. There you go. It's the sales energizer. That's what it is. Hey, people think sales is obviously telling stories, but you know what it is? And I guess it's what sales is all about. It's the transfer of energy. And what better way to transfer that energy than to tell a story? I'm going to give you guys something that I don't give to anybody, because this is like professional stuff. This is the whole thing. When it comes to presentations, and it comes to selling, and telling a story, it has to be a specific type of story. And it's the type of story, how you know it works well. It's the type of story where you're looking into the audience and people are nodding their heads and they're with you. And when that happens, you know exactly what's going on. Whatever you're talking about, they've taken you, the storyteller, out of the picture, and they've put themselves in the picture. And when that happens, they are thinking to themselves, what would I do in this situation? As soon as you get that first nod, you got them. And that's when you want to set the close in. How's that for a little secret info right there?
I like that at the beginning, hands up. So
Yeah,
you know what?
up.
You know what I didn't think about before is the transfer of energy.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting, because you know what? Like when I read the best stories, or let's pick on advertising for a minute. A lot of advertising sucks. Doesn't transfer anything. And I know we're not talking about advertising. But
Yes,
the
we
other
are.
day,
It's the same thing.
it is, right?
Yeah.
But the other day I was watching a commercial for a generator. And we had a really bad storm here about a year ago, right? Like power was out for, some areas of the town for weeks. And I thought, maybe I need to check it out. And now they're doing, proposals or whatever, quotes, I guess is the right term. But the commercial, coupled with my own experience, right? It's the energy that gets created.
Yeah.
Why I even want to talk about it. So why are so many salespeople not getting this correct? Or am I just dreaming that?
Well, it's not just salespeople, it's marketers too.
For sure.
Everybody, it's very easy to say, people buy on emotion, but they buy on emotion, but then you validate with facts. It's very easy to say that, but it's easy to disseminate facts. You just got to look at a piece of paper. It's difficult to create that type of emotion. And most people are lazy, and so they don't create that type of emotion. They don't do it. I had a guy when I first got into the speaking business, and he said something amazing. He was a guy who was basically given the same speech for 20 years. And he told me, he goes, I made $6 million with this speech. I am not going to change it until it stops working. And he said basically nothing. I mean, it was like total fluff. Total fluff. And I said, how did you make that work? I mean, you're saying nothing. And he said, because I learned something a long time ago. I learned this. You could be on stage and you could say absolutely nothing. But if you say it with enthusiasm, they think you're a genius. And it's because that's what they want more than the product that you're selling. I'm sorry. Look at this. More than the product that you're selling, what they want is that energy. They want to feel good. They want to see themselves with whatever you're selling and feeling good while using it. When you talk about that generator, I mean, the commercial for the generator is this simple. You show a picture of somebody, a big storm behind them, and they're there with a generator, and they're trying to crank the thing, and it's not starting. And then the headline says, "What's worse than not having a generator in a storm? Having one that won't start." I mean, that's even more frustrating. And that whole thing, you put yourself in that position. You're like, my stomach is hurting right now just thinking, oh, look, I'm happy I got a generator. And then the thing won't start and you want to kill yourself. And so that's how easy it is to create a story and sell something while you do it.
Well, and I mean, the generator, just to keep beating that to death for a minute here, I mean, it also worked because we had a bad storm, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't even have to imagine it. I knew what it felt like to sit here. And then the other thing is, you know, it's okay. I can make it work sitting here in the summer and be sweaty for a couple of days. But could you imagine being in an Iowa winter without electricity? Like, I could not. So that's that's prospecting more than it is selling. And so, you know, prospecting is you're driving, and I consider this with cold calling also. It's basically a billboard. So, here you are, you're driving down the road and it's 8:30 in the morning and there's a big billboard for a roast beef sandwich from Subway. And, I'm not hungry. I'm not in the mood for the roast beef sandwich. So you drive past it and you're not ready. Maybe coming home, that same sign tells a completely different story. And so that, the whole idea is you need to catch them at the right time, right there in the middle of a storm. Probably a good time to be talking about generators. And but you can create the motion in different times if you just sell different things. If you're living in a warm climate or in a climate that has a generator and stuff like that, and come the hurricane season is coming, you could preempt it and you could do certain other things. But then there's also you could play on family, and you can play on a husband's desire maybe to protect his family, and you can guilt a person like that. Don't leave your family alone at home without a generator. That would work in the summer as well in the winter. So I get the concept that you got to draw on the emotion. I mean, I get it. Like whoever the person is that made millions talking about, as you call it, fluff. But people want to feel something, right? Now, at the end of the day, though, yes, I agree. I want to feel something. I want to feel good about, what we're doing and whatever. But at the end of the day, whatever I'm buying needs to work too, right? So how do you combine I'm connecting with you to, hey, I also have a good product and it's going to help you. So the sizzle has to meet the steak somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it starts with, don't be a liar. And, I always tell people, sales has a bad reputation, and it's probably because, most people are liars, in their own life. We always lie. When you call someone up and say, hi, how you doing? You don't really care how they're doing. That's just hello. So these little mini lies happen all the time. But if you're presenting a product that you believe in, if you got the cure for cancer and, you want to give it to somebody and someone says no, because they don't believe you, you're probably going to get more creative and figure something out. I guess the best example is insurance. Insurance is, first of all, it's ubiquitous. It's not like you're gonna introduce somebody to insurance and they're gonna be like, oh my, honey, come over here. Check this out. It's insurance. Like, you're not surprising anybody with insurance. And nobody really wants it because you don't need it right now. Hopefully you don't need it right now. But, I have my dad was an immigrant from France, Jewish immigrant, came here. He had no money. He had, he lost his dad in the Holocaust. It was a whole big thing. Started with nothing, and the thought of getting insurance, like, what are you doing? I have nothing. I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to save. I have nothing, any of this. And so, for many years, we didn't have insurance. He just, didn't even think about this type of thing. Until one day when we got this, $100,000 bill in like 1980, when nobody has any money. And they said, you could have fixed this thing with just insurance. And we worked 20 years to pay off a bill that would have been paid off with insurance, to pay, $18 a month. That story could probably edge somebody over the side of getting insurance.
Absolutely. And
those stories come, by the way, if you're looking for where do I find a good story, it's called living. Go out today and meet your neighbor and talk to your neighbor. I promise you'll get a story.
There's stories everywhere. And this is what I think people don't understand a lot of times. They say, oh, we don't have anything to talk about. And I said, look, I can sit next to you in your board meeting. And by the time you're done with the board meeting, I bet you I have a list of stories that we can share. Now, should all those be shared publicly? No, but plenty of stories. Now, I want to get to the audience here for a second, but I got to say, listen, just watch Dan, how he's talking, right? He gets you pulled in. He grabs your attention. And if you just sit here in a monotonous way, right, like nobody pays attention. I'm so quiet. And do you know what I mean? Like, so you have to also share your story in a way. Now, Ricky, in case you guys don't know, we're multi-streaming to all of my channels, to Dan's channels, to DBNA Television, Helium Radio Network, everywhere. And Ricky says, this is actually on Dan's channel, how you doing, Dan? And he really does care.
Yes. Well, my man, Ricky, let me tell you how cool Ricky is. Ricky was, and I haven't done a real kind of pitch man shows for a while. We've been doing a lot of interview shows like this. But Ricky's one of those guys that he's more than a fan of this. He puts himself as part of the show. Everybody needs a Ricky in their life. And he's a truly sincere, good guy. And really, we talked earlier about sales and telling stories of what's going on. Ricky, I was doing a lot of shows for a long time, and then I kind of stopped for a little while because business picked up and all that stuff. I got a call one day from Ricky, and I think he was truly concerned. What's going on? Where you been? And that's the type of guy I would buy anything from if he would ask me. And really, I tell people, when you want to be a salesperson, if you want to be a great salesperson, first be a great person. And then it just comes easy. The trick is you don't want to have to manipulate people and sell them something. The trick is you want to be as authentic as you can, as sincere as humanly possible, but as authentic that you're comfortable with. I might be more comfortable sharing, things about my tuchus than other people might be, but being authentic, vulnerable, and sensitive, and you don't got to worry about selling because people are too busy buying.
Yeah, but I think that's very hard for some people. And I mean, I agree with you. And that's, to an extent, that's what content marketing is about. Mm-hmm. You're constantly in front of people. And if they need something from you, you're top of mind. Now, you mentioned people are lazy. And yes, I wasn't just trying to pick on salespeople. Marketers are lazy. Content marketer. Everybody has some level of laziness, right? Or many people do, I guess.
Well, it's a very human aspect to take the least path of resistance. That's just what we do. And there's very few Marcus Aureliuses out there who are gonna go the extra mile than the Stoics that just keep on philosophers that will kind of work on themselves on a daily basis. Jim Rohn, I think, said it best. Work on your job and you'll make a living. Work on yourself and you'll earn a fortune. And so, one day you got to wake up and decide, who do you want to be? It was one of the things my dad said. He said, Danny, in this country, gosh, I just forgot what he said. And it was oh yeah, here it is. Danny, in this country, act like the person you'd like to become. And pretty soon you'll see that person in the mirror. So people can be very industrious and unlazy if they want to be that type of person. So you decide who you want to be, and then it just makes it itself. Does an industrious person sleep at 2:00? Does an industrious person wake up at 10 in the morning instead of 6? What does the person you'd like to be? How does that person act? And then it'll just happen as long as you want it.
As long as you keep working on it. So, but how do we tell better stories? I mean, I don't know if it comes natural to me or it just has happened because that's kind of where my career went, right? As a journalist, you better not come back to this newsroom without a story. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Even nobody says that. The TV news has to go out, the paper has to go out. Like, we need something, which is why sometimes when there's this little news day, you got some boring stories. But for a salesperson or a marketer or whoever, anybody that's trying to work with people, how do they find the story? So give me, like you said, the neighbor. I'm with you. I can go talk to my neighbor, and why are we talking to each other?
Well, there are some tricks. And now, the first thing is, it's not just a neighbor; it's interact with people. If you're a salesman, go do some prospecting, knock on some doors, talk to some people, get kicked out of an office. That's a story right there. Go through your family. I used to tell people when I actually used to teach a course on this. You want to find a story. It's just in your mind. Think back to everybody. If you're watching this, just think back to when you're a kid. You're 10 or 11 years old, and in your mind, go into your bedroom. Look around, see your bed, look at, open up your closet and hear how that little creak sounds or whatever. All of a sudden you got 3 or 4 stories right now that's going on. You go down to your kitchen in your mind. I remember one day my dad was so annoying. He would wake us up really early in the morning with like a trumpet. He was that type of guy. One day I'd go down in the kitchen and he wanted to get everybody up and come into the kitchen. He was making chicken and he must have got a deal. So he had like 4 chickens and he hung them up with a string, like from one side to the other. And he attached them on with his wings like this. There were the wings. And you come downstairs and you see these chickens hanging from the ceiling because the guy was a lunatic, but he would do anything for attention. And just that little story right there, I could, depending on the topic of the customer, the person that I'm talking to, I can make a point out of that. And so, get them from your history, get them from your past, and use self-deprecating humor. It works much better than making fun of other people.
Yeah, I thought you were going to be like Adam Schefter getting the phone call live on air with, do you know what I'm talking about?
No. But I've done that. It was just that this is my wife. And so if it was a customer, I'd answer.
We'll do it live on air.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is every once in a while on ESPN, you see those big names, big name reporters, they get a phone call of something happening. And they take it, right? Or they say, I'll be right back. I think there was something was broken.
Well, I don't watch ESPN. I only watch the Chris Trapp show on the DBA network. That's how I roll.
Awesome. Business storytelling show. So, okay. Now there's stories everywhere.
Yes.
But how do we tie them back to the business purpose? So for example, I could talk about all kinds of crap that happens here with softball, with whatever, like how I currently can't get a haircut because I shave and I don't have any hands after falling off a ladder. But from a business perspective, nobody cares about that, right? Like, how do I identify the stories that have a business something. I mean, and it can be super, it doesn't have to be super tight, right? I was talking to an author the other day who wrote binge marketing, and she came up with binge marketing after watching Netflix. Do you know? So how do we identify the ones that are, this is a good story, but this is a great story?
Well, every story is a great story if the presenter makes it a great story. But you need to know what your purpose is, what the goal is, what the main point of that you want to make. And really, you could bend every story to make whatever point that you want. Okay, so here's something. So let's say you want to sell, I don't know, what are your services that you sell? What do you do? Do you do digital marketing? What do you do?
You can't hire me for anything, Dan, but
okay.
My day job, we'll go with this one. Let me just find it here. I work at voxpopme.com. It's an agile qualitative research with videos. So basically, you can send your questions to your audience, and they can use their phones to give you their answers, on their own time, and then automatically everything gets analyzed, and you can put together highlight reels for the executives.
Highlight reels for the purpose of what? Does it make them
to show it to the bosses? Executives never have time to read a report, so you can send them a 60-second highlight reel with the top responses and the top highlights.
Okay, great. Yeah. So when I was a kid, just getting started in the workforce, I prided myself on just being able to work more than anybody else. But Joel Haspel prided himself on, he said, I'm going to work smart and not hard. And so what Joel Haspel did was when he would get a job and do something, he would find actually somebody else. He would always sub out, like people have these gig sites now that they do all this stuff. He would sub out all his work that he was supposed to be doing. He would pay somebody else to do it a little bit less than what he was getting paid. And I remember looking, I would go, you're crazy, because I was making let's say I'm making $1,000. He was only taking home $200 because he was having somebody else do all that. But after a while, they kept on going to Joel, and they kept on giving him raises, and they kept on giving him more work and all this stuff and more responsibility. And he was working less than I was, and he wound up actually becoming like a president of that company, not doing any of the work. And he used to tell me all the time, he said, I have time to make deals. I don't have time to read all this extra stuff that has to do. And so I learned that from Joel Haspel. And so that's why this company was invented, to make you, the people, the executives, be able to make deals when all the research comes to you like this, that you can assimilate it in seconds. And that story, by the way, that story completely made up. Okay, except the names are real. But listen, it's important. Yeah. It's important when you're telling a story to put names in there. When you say this guy, when you say there's this guy, then it's a joke. So there's this guy driving this car, and he's driving down an old country road, and he looks to the right of him, and he sees a chicken. And a chicken is keeping up with the car, which is a strange thing because he was driving like 50 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, the chicken goes right in front of the car, and he looks at the chicken, and he's running fast, and he's got 3 legs. And he goes, this is crazy. I got a fast chicken with 3 legs. And he sees the chicken go into this farm, and he follows the chicken into the farm, and there's a farmer there, and he says, I lost this chicken. He goes, did you see a chicken? He said, did they have 3 legs? He says, yeah. He goes, I breed them. He goes, you breed chickens with 3 legs? He goes, yeah. I goes, why do you do that? He said, well, my wife likes the drumstick. I like the drumstick. And my boy likes the drumstick. So I figure, why have fights in the house? Why don't I just breed a chicken with 3 legs? And the guy thinks, this is brilliant. He goes, how does it taste? And the farmer says, I don't know. I haven't been able to catch him.
Now, hard to keep up with you here, Dan. So, all right.
But the point is, that's a joke. When you say, hey, there's this guy, then it's always a joke. But if you put their names on it, then you got something that's credible and believable.
But but do you just make the names up, or like do you have to?
No,
have to
I mean Joel Haspel's a friend of mine.
Okay.
The old friend of mine from the neighborhood. You know, he was the guy who, when I was a kid, Evil Knievel was big. And so my last name is Jourdan. So I was Evil Jourdan. And so I would jump over, I would take, ramps, and we jump over garbage cans and all that stuff. But Joel Haspel was the smart one. He was the one who was making the ramps and having other people jump, but he wanted to do it. And so finally he got a picnic table. We put this picnic table down, and we flew. It was unbelievable how far I went. And then Gary Zisman went, and this was like a memorable moment. Says everybody's there. Gary's there riding. I'm there. Stewie Shapiro, David Herstein, Richie Myers, Darren Zimmerman, Robbie Engel. Everybody's there watching because it was a big event because Gary was going to jump over like 30 garbage cans into this thing. And as he got into the middle, it was like amazing. He's in the middle, and his feet came off the pedals. And anybody who's a guy knows what's going to happen when this guy lands. And to a man, every one of us turned around and we just couldn't watch what was about to happen. Anyway, Joel Haspel made that ramp. Never let him forget it.
Dan, you probably find it hard to believe, but we're all out of time because we told so many stories in 27 minutes sharp here. Final note, Ricky gets the final word here, I guess. A good storyteller can take something mundane or ridiculous and captivate their audience. Amen.
That's my man, Ricky.
That's a final word. Dan, thanks for joining me. Great to see you. Why is it not playing?
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review our show on your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to share this episode with your networks. We appreciate you. Until next time, let the best story